Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, this past weekend, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was surprisingly to many people acquitted in his bogus impeachment trial in the state of Texas. He was impeached by more than 70% of House Republicans. However, only 2 out of the 19 Republican senators voted to convict him for any of the impeachment articles. And it kind of shows you what really happens when you go out of your way to critique the establishment, because that's what Ken Paxton did. Ken Paxton called out Dade Phelan for being a drunk moron on the state house floor, which he was. And then Paxton was then subsequently impeached by the state house because Dade Phelan led this effort to impeach him over corruption charges, which have been floated as a potential thing for Paxton for quite some time. A lot of people have called out potential acts of corruption. But you know what? The voters of the state of Texas, did they exactly care? Did they buy this nonsense? No. Ken Paxton, despite being somebody who was seen as uneluctable or whatever by a lot of these neocon types, well, he won big. He won by 10 points. He only won by 1 less than what Greg Abbott won by. He did extremely well in 2022 in the state of Texas. And it didn't exactly matter then. It didn't matter until he called out Dade Phelan for his nonsense. And then he gets impeached, and then he gets acquitted on all counts because he did not exactly break the law to the extent that they claimed that he broke the law by. So there you go. Paxton is still alive, which is a very good thing because we're going to talk about 2024 in Texas in this video. And Paxton was instrumental for election integrity in Texas ahead of the 2020 election. He himself has credited Trump's strong performance in the state to himself alone. And whether you want to say he deserves all the credit or not, he definitely at least deserves some of the credit. And that is objectively true. So we're going to dive into what Texas is going to really look like in 2024. Can Trump win the state of Texas? Will he win the state of Texas? Well, it got a whole lot easier, but I'll tell you after I tell you about redeaglepolitics.com, your one-stop shop for all exclusive Red Eagle Politics content. You guys can join the website for just $5 a month. That is 16 cents a day. A lot of people have asked me, what do you think about Trump's latest comments on abortion? I did a whole full-length video about it only on the website for paying members. On top of that, we have a lot of exclusive videos. We have the Discord server, articles, etc., all on redeaglepolitics.com. So, Texas, the midterms were very good for Republicans. Republican candidates up and down the ballot won. It didn't really matter what wing of the Republican Party they really fit into. The state party was competent at getting out the voters, and what exactly happened? They turned out, and Greg Abbott won by a lot. You saw him win, but you also saw Republicans down ballot do very well. Dan Patrick won by 11. Paxton, despite his corruption allegations thrown his way, he still won by 10. Sid Miller, who is very conservative, he won by 12 for the agricultural commissioner post. The comptroller won by 15. The land commissioner won by 14. The railroad commissioner won by 14. The Supreme Court candidates all won by a lot. Now, midterm years are midterm years, and even though 2022 was not exactly a red wave per se, it was still a decent year for Republicans overall, especially in the state of Texas compared to some of these other states like what we saw up in the Rust Belt there. So what we do know is that the state hasn't fully moved into the swing state status. It's moved left in recent years. We know that, but still, is it ready to flip? My answer is no, it's not. It only trended left by 1% in 2020. And there's a difference between trend and swing because it swung left by like 3 or 4 points or so, I think 3.5, but the nation swung left by 2.5. So It only trended left by 1%. It reelected a lot of these supposedly poor candidate quality types, whatever the neocons say. Anybody who is aligned with Trump or the MAGA America First agenda, they will say they can't win, they're unelectable, and they especially say they're a bad fit for the state of Texas. But these types did very well. In some cases, they outperformed Greg Abbott at the top of the ticket in 2022. And I'm not saying the state isn't going to be a problem later this decade or next decade, because it very well could be, and we got to deal with things like immigration, the border crisis, etc. But this notion that the Democrats are going to win Texas, or they're flipping it, or Trump is going to lose it, it's delusional. It would take an extreme bottoming out of epic proportions, and I just can't see that happening, especially because Biden has lost a lot of popularity in the state of Texas. And when it comes down to the primary field, Donald Trump is clearing everybody, and he's improving his margins in every single poll. He's doing extremely well, despite Texas being a state where he struggled in the 2016 primary. So already you're seeing Trump doing better in the Texas Republican primary than he's doing in Republican primaries nationwide. You also look at 2020 and how, even though Texas moved to the left compared to the nation by, I think it was like 8 points or 9 points or so in 2016, only did that by 1% or so in 2020. And if you see that continuation, but let's say Trump does better nationwide than he did in 2020, which a lot of polls are saying, well, it does seem as if Trump is going to possibly improve on his Texas margin. Now, you have to also look at trends. The suburbs are indeed moving left. That is somewhat of an issue, but even if you move the DFW area to the left by like 15 to 20 points in every single county, you move Austin a little bit to the left, Houston a little bit to the left, it's still not enough. There's still room for Republicans to grow in these counties that are like 80% Republican. They're becoming 90%, and those votes do add up. Not only that, you have the Hispanic trends, or the Tejano trends, in South Texas. Now, the question is, will these trends continue? Because in the midterms, they did not. Although if you look at turnout, it was not exactly super high because it wasn't a presidential year, just like it wasn't even super high in presidential years before Trump came along. And then in 2020, Trump came along, supercharged the turnout. I don't believe there's a reason to say that these margins aren't going to stay the same, if not even improve, in the future election cycles. Republicans had them stay roughly about the same in 2022, despite a drop-off in turnout, to the point where I do believe that Trump will continue to improve in South Texas. He'll continue to improve whatever he can do marginally in rural Texas. And I think he could very well hold his own. You look at a county like Harris County, Houston, these big population centers, Democrats aren't really moving the needle anymore in them, and if they are, it's very marginal. So while I do believe you'll see counties like Collin, Denton move a little bit to the left, are you going to see Dallas move to the left by 6 points? Probably not. And the growth kind of did slow in the DFW area a bit during COVID, and a lot of the people that are moving there are basically breaking 50-50. So I don't believe that Texas is going to be on the verge of flipping in 2024. I don't believe the math is there. Donald Trump is holding his own in the primary, it seems. And regarding 2024, you look at these recent polls, Trump is up by 6, 5, 9, 7, 3, and 2. And the one that has him up 2 does tend to have a lot of undecideds. And all these polls also show Trump doing the same or better than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis does against Biden in the state of Texas, which is very interesting. We talk about neocons, and a lot of people say Texas is a neocon state. And while it was in the 2000s and the 2010s, it doesn't seem like neocons are really outrunning the more MAGA type of Republicans in the state of Texas anymore. Look at Greg Abbott. He went out there and he won by, 10.9 percentage points. It's definitely possible without the Dobbs decision that he would have won by a few more points, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter. He had a commanding victory, but so did a lot of these Republicans down ballot, like Dan Patrick. He won by 11. He's probably more associated with Trump, and you look at Ken Paxton, he wins by 10. He's honestly, better than Trump on all of the issues, or to the right of Trump on like every single issue. And there's a reason why they went after him. And there's also a reason why they failed, because the Texas Senate held its own. Very weird that despite being like a more exclusive chamber than the Texas State House, there's, fewer seats. It takes more money to win a seat there, that the state Senate is actually more based compared to the state House. Very interesting. But you look at Sid Miller for the agricultural commissioner position, he won it by 12 points, and he is very much so a Trump-style conservative, but people like him, and the Texas GOP, relatively speaking, is competent. They have some rhinos. They also have some base people, and we know that. But when it comes down to the whole electability thing, I'm not super convinced that at this point you're going to see one of these neocons, if they were at the top of the ticket, outrun Trump by a ridiculous margin. They might do it by a point or two, but it's not going to be by anything meaningful at the end of the day. And I also think Ted Cruz is going to hold the Senate race in Texas. He's going up against Colin Allred, who I believe is extremely overrated in regards to his viability. He's underperformed Biden and the top of the ticket in several election cycles in a row. He said more radical things regarding energy, regarding guns, compared to somebody like Beta himself, who that definitely caught up with him compared to his 2018 Senate run, where he at least pretended to kind of be a moderate, but not really. But still, he was able to get within a few points that year. I don't see that happening in 2024. It doesn't matter who Trump picks as VP. It doesn't even matter if he runs a campaign that's underwhelming. I still believe at the end of the day, he will win Texas. And a lot of what it comes down to is mechanics. The Texas GOP has relatively solid mechanics overall. A lot of these other swing state GOPs don't. North Carolina does, which is why I expect Trump to hold that again, which really means that Trump's electoral floor was his 2020 ceiling. Then he has to go on offense in Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I do know that the Pennsylvania Democrats are in shambles. They're trying to push through this new automatic registration thing, thinking it's going to help them. But if we play our cards right, I think we could flip it on them. And on top of that, Trump is making a play for the Rust Belt. He is going to the UAW strike, and he's going to try to talk to some of these workers and show that he sympathizes with them. That definitely bolsters his pro-worker brand and image, and if he revitalizes that properly, instead of pandering to groups that he can't win, then Trump is going to be in a much, much better situation regarding Michigan, but also Wisconsin and Pennsylvania when it comes down to taking on Biden ahead of the 2024 elections. So when it comes to Texas, this is short-term security. This is also a long-term problem. It could be a long-term problem. And it really just comes down to the mechanics of it. It comes down to the leadership. And if they're able to terraform the state to be a little bit more conservative, I think they've done a decent job compared to what some people give them credit for. But still, Abbott is squishy at times. And when it comes down to the industry pouring into certain places like Austin, that should probably be curbed. So it comes down to a lot of factors in terms of the far future. But if we get immigration under control, Texas will probably still remain in the Republican column for the foreseeable future at least. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.